Welcome to More Than Myths.
Hi.
Hi.
How are
We're live.
you? We're live.
Who am I or how am I?
Well, who are you? Yeah,
I
tell
don't
me
know
that.
anymore. I don't know anymore.
Yeah, I understand that completely. Who am I?
I mean,
Who
we're
am
More
I
Than Myths,
today?
but that's about it. That's about all I know.
Yeah, that's true. That we do. I do know that. We are more than myths.
Yes. We are More Than Myths.
Welcome. Are you drinking anything?
Negative. I'm just drinking water. I don't even have any
Boo.
water. I don't even have any liquids. I'm a dried out little husk. Ooh, mango.
Husk? I
Yeah.
remember this from yesterday.
Yeah.
What did I think you said? Oh, puck?
Puck. Dried out little puck. Like a towel
Dried
puck.
out little puck. Like a towel puck. I'm
Like a
this
towel
is
puck. Mango
not sponsored.
lemonade.
by Mango Lemonade.
Nice. It's not a spicy one.
2 mango lemonades.
Way to do it right. You're just drinking one for me. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. That was my plan.
Mm-hmm.
Corinne's
That's a solid
truly,
plan.
Hailie's truly. I just have yours 500 miles away.
It's fine. It's happy there.
Yeah, it's going to be enjoyed. That's for sure.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. We're getting so close to Halloween. We hope you guys liked Dad's episode last week. It was so spooky.
It was so spooky.
So
Yeah.
spooky.
Ugh.
Yeah. Ooh. But also I feel like you and I are just on like ghost story kick.
Mm-hmm.
We can do scary things all the time.
But
So,
ghost stories.
ghost stories. Those are pretty
It's a
Halloween
special time of
specific.
month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Special time of the month. It sounds like you're talking about periods, but I get you're talking about October.
Spooky
The special.
season. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Spooky special. Not.
Spooky special. Ooh, that's what we should
There you
call
go.
this episode.
Ooh, our spooky special. Well, that's
Yeah.
what it is. That's
'Cause
done. Name.
it's-
Spooky
yeah.
special.
Love
the
it.
spooky special. It's the spooky special.
Ooh, even better. It sounds so
Jesus
much more
Christ.
official. This is how
It's
we get our
been-
names, guys. That's
yeah,
it.
it's been one hell of a week.
Yeah, so much so that we're just flying by the seat of our pants for maybe the first time ever.
The first time ever. We're
Yeah.
gonna do a little quick myth stakes, and then we're gonna tell you some scary stories.
Yep.
Unplanned.
Unplanned. We're just going to see where the
unwritten.
conversation takes us.
This is just our regular Corrine and Hailie conversation.
You guys get to be
So-
a part of a Corrine and Hailie conversation. A Corrine and Hailie spooky special.
Oh, it just gets better and better. I don't know if I have enough space in the title to go
No,
with that.
it's going to be like a whole paragraph by the time we're done with the
It's going to
episode.
scroll, and then you're going to have to read it. Wait, what
I
did
love
that
it.
say?
Yeah, seriously. Okay, but I do have a couple of myth stakes that we can start with.
We'll
Yeah?
just jump right in.
And then we'll go to, because I have a feeling that when we start telling scary stories to each other, we're going to go on a lot of tangents.
We might.
So I feel like they're going to get more conversation from us than they normally get. So
That's probably true.
yeah, I think that,
That's
yeah.
probably true.
Whoops. Okay,
But I do.
first mistakes question.
Ready.
We, at one point, were talking about Blockbuster.
We haven't
And-
had mistakes in a hot minute, so yes. I
Oh,
remember.
well, and gosh, I only have a couple of notes, so I'm sure that there's
Okay.
more that needs to be clarified. But, you know, our
Great.
listeners are supposed to be like, yo, this is wrong. Like, we shouldn't have to do any work for mistakes, guys. You guys should be telling us where we messed up. Unless we're just that
Please tell
good.
us. I think we're just that good.
Hailie's that good.
No, I'm not. Stop
Okay.
it.
So there was a conversation at some point about Blockbuster And we were talking about the last Blockbuster, and I thought it was Bend, Oregon, and I double checked, and that is correct.
Mm-hmm.
It is the last Blockbuster. There was one in Alaska that closed in 2018.
Gotcha.
So it was the
Okay.
last Blockbuster in Alaska, but it closed. And there's a little bit of information about that too. So last Blockbuster is located in Bend, Oregon, and it has about 3 rows of movies and a whole wall of snack choices and full of all the nostalgic feels. And I was reading one article. What?
Need a wall of snacks.
I don't know what that is. What is that?
A wall of snacks? You said it has a wall of snacks.
Oh, I thought you said
Like-
Nina Wallace snacks. And I was like, what's Nina Wallace?
No. I said need a wall of snacks.
Yes, absolutely need a wall of snacks all the time.
Nina Wallace snacks?
I was like,
is that?
who the fuck is Nina Wallace? Like,
Who the fuck is Nina Wallace?
I don't know who that is. Nina Wallace's spooky special.
Oh my god. That's fine. This is fine.
Okay. I also read one place that they said that it smelled like Blockbuster. I don't remember what Blockbuster smells like, but
I don't
apparently
either.
this place, you walk in, you're like, oh, it's a Blockbuster.
It's a Blockbuster. Probably like some popcorn. That
Plastic
like
and
vinyl
popcorn.
smell. But like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Childhood. Sprinkled.
We didn't have a Blockbuster where I grew up. We had like a local store. It was
Mhm.
too tiny. It was too tiny.
Yeah. We had Blockbuster because I grew up in Boise. And then there was also like, there were the families that went to Hastings. We were not
Hell
those
yeah.
families. I did not go to
I
Hastings.
fucking miss Hastings.
And then there was one video rental that was really close to my mom's house. But I remember they had like an adult section that was behind the curtains.
Oh.
And I was like, ooh, I want to look back there. You know,
I
I
wanna
was like
see what's
so
back there.
curious.
Oh, right.
I never went. I was too chicken. But that was like, you know, Blockbuster didn't have like an adult section.
Right.
So-
no.
No.
Was it
It was
the
a family establishment.
What the fuck was the name of that?
It was like
One.
near 5 Mile.
Yeah,
You know what I'm talking about?
I think so.
Oh
I
man!
cannot
Well,
remember.
if
I'm sure
anybody
somebody will
remembers it,
remember.
I bet my parents might. My stepdad might remember, but
I bet Krista might
I'll check.
remember too.
I'll check with my siblings as well. But yeah, we
Yeah.
were always like, "What's back there?"
I want to see back there.
We knew,
What's that over there? And dart back there.
right? Okay, so some fun facts. They actually received a donation from the last Blockbuster in Alaska before they closed in 2018 because they had props that had been donated from Russell Crowe from some movies that he had been in. And I guess it was for
What?
like a skit on The Tonight Show or what? Late Night with John Oliver, one of those. I don't remember which one. I just read the article really quickly, but they have some props from Robin Hood, American Gangster, and Cinderella Man.
What?
So those are on display in the Bend, Oregon
Fancy.
Blockster. That's what they should
Doing
revive it
good.
as, is Blockster.
Blockster.
Okay. Anyway, they also rent out the Blockbuster as an Airbnb to Deschutes County residents only. So you have to
Okay.
have a local address to get a reservation with
To be
the
able to
Airbnb.
stay.
But you can stay the night, and there's no like room. They just have a living room set up in the like middle of where they would have had
Oh, the
movies before.
Blockbuster. Okay.
Yeah, and you can like they have a little like pull out couch, and so you can grab movies like VCR movies and like watch movies all night and eat popcorn
Oh
and
man.
stay at the
A
Blockbuster.
VCR.
Yeah.
Boy.
They also have
Oh,
a merch
boy.
store, and you can like order merch from them, so you can get Blockbuster merch. We have a pair of Blockbuster sweatpants that are horribly bright blue. Don't wear them.
Wow.
But, you know, we have them. But we have them. Okay. My next question that I wrote down. Are witches human?
Oh, okay.
I guess we were concerned. I think it was me. I think I was concerned. Like, are they considered humans? And
Okay.
according to fandom, which solid source, a witch is a woman that has learned witchcraft. So I think
That clears it all up.
it's a human.
It's a human.
No one outright said yes.
No. Right. Well, no, you wouldn't.
A person
Why would you? Person.
who's learned witchcraft,
AKA a human.
aka
Woman.
a human, which is equals human.
Gotcha. Okay.
So glad we could clear that up for you folks.
Just in case you were wondering. I knew
Just in
it was
case you were
keeping some
wondering.
people up.
Yeah, I know. I was clearly really
Sure,
disturbed about it. And then my last question that I had written down was from the Bell Witch episode, and I had asked if the Blair Witch was inspired by the Bell Witch. And I read a few different articles saying like maybe, but really the Bell Witch is an extreme haunting, and the Blair Witch is really like a witch thing. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
But while I was looking for these things, I have to read this to you because I'm offended. As a witch myself, I am offended. I'm not actually a witch, but truly, I don't want to be disrespectful. But I am offended. There is a United Nations human rights article from 2009 that states, hold on. Okay, so I thought it's called Witchcraft and Human Rights. And it says, in numerous countries around the world, witchcraft-related beliefs and practices have resulted in serious violations of human rights, including beatings, banishment, cutting of body parts, amputation of limbs, torture, and murder. Women, children, the elderly, persons with disabilities, particularly with albinism or albino, are particularly vulnerable. Despite the seriousness of these human rights abuses, there is often no robust state-led response. Often judicial systems don't act to prevent or investigate or prosecute human rights abuses linked to beliefs in witchcraft. This institutional failure perpetuates impunity. And I was like, this is an official UN statement on witchcraft.
Yeah.
And I had just watched an interview today with the lady who plays Mary in Hocus Pocus. I actually sent this to you on TikTok. And she was like really concerned about when she joined the cast at first, because there are people who identify as witches and like that's their religion, and she didn't want it to be like offensive. And this interview is from 1993. It makes me like, whew, it's very good. But she's just like, I wanted to make this very clear that, you know, a lot of witchcraft, you know, hating and statements like that were like, they were the nurses or the midwives.
Right.
And, you know, something bad would happen to a child or a woman or things like that. And they would blame them for just trying to help, but it would be labeled as witchcraft. So I'm like, I literally watched that interview today, and now I'm reading this UN article, and I'm like,
yeah,
are you perpetuating this like lie about witches?
It's crazy. Well,
I don't understand.
What's one of the women from the Salem trials? She was just pardoned like a couple years ago.
Oh yeah,
and it happened how many years ago?
Hundreds of years.
Yeah. Yeah, and she was just pardoned. And not all of them have been pardoned. I think it's only like 3 of them so far. If that, we'll have to bet the stakes that one the next one because I'm not going to look it up. But it's not. It is wild. It's crazy. And they were like, oh, yeah, well, maybe.
Yeah, and so much of the witch trials was just like perpetuating fear and like just
they realized that they
valid.
fucked up. I mean, that is an episode that we're gonna do.
Yeah, so
it is coming.
Anyway, I was just reading.
We'll get into it.
This is an official statement that they're just like saying, like, oh yeah,
right.
It's a result of like murder and people are not being protected from witchcraft. Like what?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'm ignorant and maybe there are some like veins of witchcraft out there that are still very violent or, you know, like, but this just sounds like kind of, you know, what everybody thinks satanic worship is, you know,
mm-hmm. Right.
when ultimately when you get down to the fundamentals of, you know, the satanic temple, it is not anything to do with, you know, baby sacrificing.
No.
It's like actually more about human rights than anything.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. I just read that like article. I was like, what the fuck?
Agreed.
Are we sure this is real? Like,
what the fuck?
You guys are putting
from
this
2009, you said?
Yeah.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Wild.
I don't even know.
Okay. So getting into our episode, Hailie and I decided to tell you guys
and tell you.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Sure. Decided to tell scary stories. Just ones we know off the top of our heads.
Mm-hmm.
No source material. Just word of mouth.
Personal experiences.
And personal experiences. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I also had an idea. I'm going to tell you one that was like ones that I was told at sleepovers.
Ooh, yeah.
You know, like the like seriously the myths or the like campfire stories,
the legendy ones,
the
guy with the hook hand.
Yeah,
you heard that one, right?
I don't know if I've heard that one.
Ooh, all right, buckle in.
Okay,
you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
We're gonna make this up on the fly because I remember parts of it. So, a while ago, when I was growing up, there was some kids that had gone up the canyon. And they, like kids do, they went up to go and build a bonfire. So they went up there and they got up there and they built a bonfire and it started to rain. And so they're like, oh, well, but the storm's probably not going to last that long. Not a big deal. We'll just hang out in the van. So they got in the van and they were waiting for the rain to pass and they started to hear a scratching outside of the van. And they were like, oh, it must be an animal or maybe we parked too close to a tree or whatever. But the scratching started to go around the van.
Mm-mm.
And it just kept going around the van and it would stop and then it would go around the other way around the van. And so people started to get really freaked out. And so they were like, all right, this is
give me full body chills.
This is not okay. We're gonna go. We're gonna we're not gonna mess around with whatever this is. And somebody was trying to open the van door. Like they couldn't see, it was really dark, and so somebody's trying to open the door and then goes to the front door and tries to open the front door. Everybody is in complete panic. But so they decide to leave and they start the car and they leave and they hear someone start screaming as they're driving away, but they don't stop because this has been going on for they were there for a while hearing the scratching going on around the car and around the car. So they drive out of the canyon and they get home and they get out and they're looking at the side of the van and they just see like a thin line of scratches that go all the way around the van. So they walk around to the other side and in the doorknob there's a hook that's been torn off of somebody and part of their arm was torn off.
Oh.
Yeah. So later, years later, there were some hunters, and they ended up like finding a skeleton that was like missing part of its arm of this guy that died. The hook hand guy. That's the story I was told.
You have to say the last part louder.
The hook hand guy. That's the story of the I remember when I was probably, gosh, 9, 10, maybe when I was told that story for the first time at my grandma's store. And I can remember sitting on the fabric cutting table and like just eating this woman's words up. I was like, this did not really happen. Like, this is crazy. And she was like, yeah, no, a couple of my friends had gone up camping and like.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, for years I believed it. For years. I was 100% convinced that this happened. It is not real at all. Every single state has a hook hand man.
Amazing. Okay, but what a fantastic segue.
Excellent.
In first grade, I had a friend tell me about an experience she had while camping that weekend, the weekend prior to the current school year.
Mm-hmm.
And she came up to me and she was like, Corrine, I have to tell you what happened. And I was like, okay, what's going on? And she was like, I was laying in my tent and I was alone. I had my own tent and my parents were in another bigger tent. It was just me and I was all by myself. And in the middle of the night while I was sleeping, I woke up because I heard a really loud sound outside my tent. And I was like, okay. And she was like, and then like a truck light shines on her tent. So bright. And all she can see is this light. And she stays still. She's pretending to sleep, just looking at her tent wall.
Right.
And she just is looking at this bright light. She's kind of seeing if her parents are going to come and check on her or what's going on. And then all of a sudden, she starts to see a shadow like coming towards her.
Gross.
And it's not a very big person. It's like someone who's small.
Stop. Fuck.
And this thing walks up to the tent and places its hand on the tent and pushes it in. And she can tell that the fingers are not human.
Right.
Like alien. She's like,
Yuck.
They're like bulby fingers pushed in my tent 3 times.
Gross.
And then it walked away. The light disappeared and she stayed up all for the rest of the night.
Well, yeah.
I'm in first grade.
That's terrifying.
And the first scary movie I ever watched growing up was a mistake. My parents didn't know I had seen it, or I saw it, and then I was brought home, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we watched this movie," and they were like, "What the fuck?" I was 3, maybe 4, and I was shown Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Oh no!
Which is like a campy horror film,
right? But when you're tiny,
you've never seen anything on TV that's live action that wasn't just happy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't understand that concept. My parents didn't, I've never processed that kind of fear before. And I had a fear, like deep fear of aliens from that point on. Then I'm shown Mars Attacks a few years later. Again, a comedy.
Right.
Nightmares.
But still scary.
Destroyed me. So there is already a deep-seated fear of aliens in my bones.
And then she told you this story.
And she tells me this story. I don't sleep while I camp for the rest of my life. I don't. Not really. For the next 3 or 4 years. My grandparents take us camping all the time. I go with my dad all the time. Like, we can't. Every summer we would go at least once a month, if not more. We'd go up camping, and I would lay in bed until exhaustion took me over every night. And then I would honestly wouldn't fall asleep until the sun came up because
sad.
I couldn't process.
You were so
this
scared.
Fear. I also had horrible nightmares of like an alien walking up to me, and I couldn't say anything or scream, because that was another thing she said happened too, was that she couldn't make any sound while it was going on.
Right.
And I like couldn't scream, which is typical in dreams.
Nightmares. Yeah.
You're like, you can't make sound because you're actually sleeping. So like 5th grade, maybe I hadn't moved yet. So I moved in 5th grade. So maybe 4th or 5th grade, I was like, that fucking story you told me, because I'm in a small area. We've all been in grade school the whole time together. We might have gotten 1 or 2 new kids, or somebody might have left, but we're generally the same class because it's 1 class per grade. It's not a big school. Right. So I go up to her, and we were talking about something at one point, and I was like, that story you told me from what happened to you in 1st grade still really messes with me. I can't sleep when I go camping. It's like awful. And she turns and she looks at me and she goes, "Oh, I made that up."
You bitch. I would have tackled her then and there.
I would have made her name 10 candy bars. She's like, "Oh yeah, I thought it was funny and I was just telling you a story."
That's not funny, lady.
I was like, "You literally ruined like 4 of my summers,
ruined my
bitch.
life. You ruined my life."
Like, I
hate your face.
I swear I probably slept better than I had in 4 years after that
moment
that she admitted that she had made it up. I was like, I had no reason not to believe people.
Right. No. Oh my God.
No, man.
Terrible.
I was, and I didn't tell anybody that story. Like, I lived in fear. So anyway, story of something coming to find out a few years later was not real at all.
Was not real. Oh,
that was it.
That's terrible.
It was horrifying.
My gosh.
I still have to take a ton of melatonin and have like a shot of whiskey before I go to bed when I'm camping.
They're not going to get you.
I'm like, no, I'm good. I don't want to be kidnapped.
I don't want to find out. I'm just going to be asleep. The 4th Kind, anyone?
Fuck that movie. I hate you still.
I know. Someday you'll forgive me. Someday.
No, never.
Probably.
Remember that deep ingrained fear of aliens? It's still there. It's still in the bones. It's buried over some good protective,
I didn't know.
Mental blockers.
I didn't know.
If you guys haven't seen The 4th Kind, just watch it.
Just watch it.
It is a
good flick.
It's a great flick.
But I somehow convinced Corrine, and I also believe I convinced Laura that it was real. And we watched it. Did we watch it together? I'm pretty sure we did.
We watched it together. I cried.
Yeah. There is some really visually upsetting parts in that movie. So. Yeah.
Oh, that reminds me. I saw Mila Jovovich at the pool at Disneyland.
Oh.
I was like,
hey, I remember you texting me that.
I
know you.
I'm like, oh, it's Lilu.
How's it going? What are you drinking?
Gotta leave. I just smiled. I wasn't weird, guys. I just smiled. I didn't bother her. She was with her family.
Just give her a little nod.
But I saw her, and I kept my cool.
I know who you were.
It was cool.
Sort of freaking out. All right, let's see. What other good scary stories do I have? I can tell you my ghost story. I'm sure I've told you this one before.
Tell me your ghost story.
But for the audience, they won't know.
Yeah.
So when I first moved to Boise, we lived in the apartment building that's actually right adjacent to the apartment building I'm living in now. We lived upstairs. So one of the nights, we were just taking pictures around the apartment, and we started noticing like orbs. Is that right? What you call them?
Yeah. In
the pictures. But they were mostly around me, which was really weird. Like there wasn't any around the guy that I was seeing at the time. So that was kind of weird. And we just kept taking pictures when we shouldn't have. We should have stopped, but we just kept taking pictures. And we're probably provoking whatever is in the house. And there was a picture. I went into the bedroom and I was standing up against the closet, and he took a picture and he looked at it and his face just went white and his eyes got really big and he was like, come stand over here. And so I like moved away from the closet. He's like, look at this picture. And behind me, there is just a big black mass. Like you cannot see. Oh, and this is real life. Like I saw this picture with my own eyes. All of this happened. So you cannot see through this shape that very clearly just looks kind of like a blobby human, kind of, you know? Like you can definitely tell that there's arms. You can definitely tell there's a head. And it's tall. It's very tall standing behind me.
Fuck that.
So again.
No.
Yeah. Have I never told you this story?
No. Or I blocked it.
Yeah. Well, so we kept taking pictures.
Why?
And I know, because we were, 18, 19 at the time? We were
stupid
little
Hailie.
kids. We were pretty young. So I'm in the living room. And
I didn't mean that. I don't think 19-year-old Hailie is stupid.
Oh, no, she totally was. That's fine. I was standing in the living room and looking towards like the sliding glass door and into the kitchen. And next to, there weren't any windows open. It was probably like right around this time, honestly, in time of year. We had one of those big calendars, like the kind that you see in like a mechanic shop, like the really big, heavy ones.
Yeah.
And we had one of those. And I looked into the kitchen and the calendar picked itself up off the wall and was completely vertical in the air. Like, wasn't on the nail, wasn't like there wasn't a window open, the door wasn't open, like nothing. So I called my boyfriend.
Wind could.
No, it was totally vertical. Like somebody was like stiff. Like usually it would go floppy, right?
Yuck.
No, it was totally straight and was completely vertical off of the wall.
No.
And I called my boyfriend. I was like, we've got to get the fuck out of here right now. So he comes in and he looks at the calendar and it's still straight off the wall. And he was like, fuck this. So he grabs his keys and we leave. And we went and like drove around. Like I left in pajamas and no shoes. I had nothing with me. Like we were out. Okay, bye. We grabbed the dog and left.
Right.
We came back. We called his mom and we like sent her the picture. And she was like, when you go back to the house, just be really careful. She's like, don't provoke it. Don't take any more pictures. She's like, but what they're probably going to do is it's probably going to mess with your electronics. So we're like, all right, we calmed down. We went back to the house and we actually slept in the living room that night.
Yeah.
So we had set an alarm clock with batteries in it. So because I had to get up and go to work the next morning, I had my phone set so that I would make sure and wake up. And there was his phone and another alarm I think that we'd set. I was late for work the next morning because we put fresh batteries in the alarm clock. I had charged my phone. The alarm clock was totally dead. My phone was totally dead. His phone was totally dead. And the other, all of our, like, you know, when the power goes out and your lights on your like microwave flash, that was happening into the microwave. We had a clock that had batteries in it. That was totally dead. Yeah. It was crazy. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what it was. I don't know what we made upset. It didn't happen again, but we stopped taking pictures.
That makes me want to throw up.
After that.
I hate that.
Yeah. That's a real life. That actually happened to me.
Been through it.
Story.
Yuck.
Yeah. Yuck.
Yuck. I hate that.
I hate it also because it's right. I mean, it's what, less than.
No.
It's just right over there.
Don't talk too loud. I don't want it to hear you.
Oh, there's something in the apartment anyway. We already know that.
It's occupado.
It's this one's not so bad. This one's just a little tricky.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah.
It's usually pretty quiet.
I've had very limited paranormal experience personally.
Mm-hmm.
But I have one story. I was house sitting for my dad. My dad lived in a kind of creepy house. And Josh and I were house sitting. So we were like newly kind of dating. And my dad was out of town. And so I was like, we just slept in their bedroom because we were there for like a weekend. So we're like, well, we'll just, change the sheets or whatever, sleep in that room. And so we're laying in bed and we're talking. We're in the middle of talking. So we're in the middle of talking.
Yeah.
And I'm like laying there and just kind of looking out in the room. And then we have the door open. Because I don't sleep with the door shut in the house.
No, I already don't like this story. Like, I already have full-on fucking goosebumps. I hate this story.
Yeah. And the door's open, and I'm laying there, and I, like, look out, just, like, I can't see the hallway. It's just wall and door. But I have the hall light on, because this house gives me the heebie-jeebies. Not gonna lie, not gonna beat around the bush. Like, I don't like sleeping in this house. So I'm like, lights on in the hall, doors open, no shadow forms are allowed to form anywhere.
Right.
And we're laying there, and then the light in the hallway just starts flickering.
No.
Flashing. Nobody is home. No. It's just Josh and I. And, like, it's never done this before. Never seen this happen. And I grew up in this house. Flashing. And I'm like, Josh, do you see what's happening? And he doesn't respond. I'm like, what? Hello? And Josh, just so everybody knows some background, is notorious for being a very heavy sleeper. He's very hard to wake up. And, like, getting him awake is almost impossible. Yeah. And I hadn't figured out, like, all the tricks that I know now. To get him awake. And so I'm like shaking him, and shaking doesn't do anything. And so I'm like, oh my God, I'm alone. And like, I don't know how to process this. He was just awake, but now he's asleep, and like, this is happening. So I'm like freaking out, and it stops. The lights are fine. Nothing else happens. I'm like listening intently. I don't hear anything, I'm like, okay, and I'm going to just go to bed. So like go to bed. Don't know how I went to bed because I don't know. I just don't know how I went to bed, but I did. And the next morning I wake up and I was like, babe, you are not going to believe what happened last night. And he's like, the lights flashed and I looked at him. I was like, you were faking it? I yelled at him and I was so mad. And I was like, now I know. I know that you aren't going to protect me if there's a ghost. And I don't like that at all. It was it was one of those moments of like, are you the one for me? Luckily, he had a lot of other redeeming qualities, but man, he is not the one you want in a ghost
fight. Protecting you from
fight.
a ghost is not one of them.
No, he was like, yeah, I pretended to be asleep because it scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, well, I mean, also, that wasn't a ghost. We both know that.
Yeah. Yucky.
No.
That house was, have I talked about this house on the show before? I don't remember.
I think we've touched on it a little bit.
It was a very yucky feeling. I remember when I moved in, I just felt like someone had been murdered there, or there was something like, and there'd only been two owners, and there was never anything negative that I was told from that. So it was just like, but it felt weird. Like it felt off the whole time. It felt off.
The first time I went upstairs, I knew something was weird. But like the worst part, I think, was standing like at the base of the stairs and looking like into that great room.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
Yeah, because it was like you'd go up the stairs and then it was a very long hallway. Then they're like, there's like a landing with some bedrooms, and then there's a long hallway with a bathroom, and then there's this big great room, and then there's this room on the other end of the hallway. And it was just like, the further back you went in the house, the more eerie it got.
The worse it got.
And so I my bedroom wasn't back there until I was in high school. And so I didn't live with my dad in high school. I lived with my mom in high school. So I was only there, for some weekends and then visiting in the summer.
Right.
So it wasn't like, that's why they put me in that room, because it's like, they don't need to have it fully occupied all the time.
Sure.
I was a part-time guest.
Yeah.
So, but I had these, like, they had kind of redone my room. So it was all girly and cute and comfortable, and they painted it, and it was like very funky.
Right.
But they had taken off the closet doors at some point, I don't remember when, and put up these like tassels.
Oh, okay.
Along the closet. So it looked really cool, but it was like kind of tassel curtains that were silky soft. So they didn't make noise or anything, but then I could like spread them open and then see inside the closet and stuff. I had to sleep with those open.
Yeah.
I couldn't, because if they started moving,
no,
I would be in a panic. I had to sleep with my door open, like all doors in this house. And I had to have the hall light on, or the guest or the bonus room light on the whole time. I was also living in this house, and in that room when I watched Paranormal Activity for the first time.
You're bananas.
I didn't know what it was.
Oh,
and I was
sure.
going through my phase of like loving scary movies.
The fuck out. Nope.
And that movie really fucked with me.
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially in that house. Fuck that.
Yeah.
No way.
So I was like, oh my God.
Like I'm fairly brave about stuff. Fairly.
Yeah.
No way. Hard stop. Not in that
so
house.
Creepy.
No way.
So creepy.
Nope. What?
Yuck. I don't like, no. My dad's long sold it. It's not our problem anymore, guys.
Not anymore.
Don't worry about it. But yeah, that's my only one that I can really think of that I was like, didn't have an explanation for.
Me too. Yeah, that was my only story that I had that was actually like, I saw it with my own eyeballs.
Yeah. Ooh. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm trying to remember if I know all the elements to this story. So my stepdad is the youngest of 4, and he's the youngest by like 10 years, I think.
Okay.
If not like 12. So all of his 3 older siblings were in their teens when he was a baby and a kid. So one of my favorite stories of my aunt, I don't remember which aunt told me this, but she was like, her and her brother Bruce, so I think it's Aunt Nancy, and Bruce had Rich, my stepdad, at the grocery store, and some old lady came up and she's like, oh, your baby's so cute. And they're like, ew. Like,
right.
This is our
I gotcha.
brother,
yeah.
So they were closer in age, and then they had this little baby, right? So he's a lot younger. So his sister lives in Cape Cod. One of his sisters lives in Cape Cod. And like that whole area is so freaking cool.
Yeah.
Old.
It's old.
History,
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he, like, his sister was like a grown adult and he's like a teenager, right? So he went to go visit his sister for a couple of weeks in the summer. He's sleeping in the house, and he was like, in this kind of old house. I don't remember if he's sleeping in his sister's house or if they're staying at like one of their friends, but I know that it is on Cape Cod. So I'm just like, it's been a really long time since I heard the story, but I remember that he was laying in bed and there was a doorway with a hall, and that he could see down the hall from his bed.
Okay. And
he's laying in bed one night, and after hearing some creaks and groans and, old house, ancient house for the, in the US, old house, he hears footsteps coming down the hallway, and he's like, okay, well, maybe somebody's awake, something's up. So he stays quiet, and he pulls his blankets over his head because he's scared.
Absolutely.
And he waits, and like the footsteps come all the way into the bedroom.
No.
Because his door's open.
No.
And then they stop. He can hear someone. He can hear someone.
Fuck.
And he pokes his head out.
No.
And there's nobody there.
Nobody there. What?
And he flips. He's just like, what the hell? There's, oh my God,
happening?
you know, what? No way. And he kind of kept this to himself until like later at some point, somebody else stays in this house. And like, I don't know if it's like later in his life or something that someone else says, oh yeah, that house is haunted. And he's like, what? You know, no. And he was just like, wait a minute. So he tells this story to all these people and they're like, yeah, that happens all the time. You know, so he gets validated years later of this experience that he had.
Yeah.
And he's just like, oh.
That's yucky.
Yeah, no, I'm giving myself
like that.
chills. I forgot about that story.
Yuck.
No, thank you.
Well.
Like being disturbed in my sleep is my greatest fear. Like if a ghost wants to come at me in the middle of the day, like it'll scare me, but like, okay, like let's go. Please don't fuck with me when I'm sleeping.
No. Especially when it's dark.
Yeah, exactly. Even dawn. You want to scare me at dawn? Fine.
Just not at 3 in the morning, please. Not at 3 a.m.
I don't want it. I don't want it at all.
No.
I have one more.
Okay.
That was like a staple in the scary stories for the late night trampoline sleepovers.
Oh, right.
In the summer. And, you know, the one that got perpetuated and was a little different every time.
Right.
So this one's called The Dog.
Oh,
I don't know if that's what it's called, but that's what I'm going to call it and pretend.
Okay.
This woman lived alone. And she would work long hours and come home, and she had a dog. I don't know what the dog's name is. We'll call him Charlie. Sounds like a good name.
Such a good name.
Charlie's a good boy. And every night she'd get ready for bed, and she would get settled in and lay down, and she'd put her hand on the other side, like over the bed, down. I know, like a psychopath. Who does that? She put her hand down and Charlie would lick her hand. And that's when she'd fall asleep, knowing that he was there and that he was protecting her and that she was safe. One night, she's laying in bed. Charlie's licking her hand. She hears a dripping sound.
Stop.
She pulls her hand up and she's curious. She's kind of wondering, like, did I leave the faucet on? Is there something wrong with my shower? What's going on? So it gets to a point where, you know, you hear an annoying sound for long enough that you're like, I gotta investigate or I'm gonna lose my fucking mind.
Right.
So she goes in the bathroom, opens the door, checks the faucet, no drips. Checks the shower, no drips. But the dripping stops. It's gone. Nothing.
Okay.
Goes back to bed and falls asleep. Okay. The next night, dripping starts again. She's laying in bed, hand down. Charlie's licking her hand. Drip. Drip.
Gross.
Drip.
Gross.
Drip.
Gross.
Goes into the bathroom. Checks everything. Faucet's not dripping. Shower's not dripping. Just drips all night. Doesn't stop though. Can't figure out where it's coming from. Finally falls asleep. The next night.
Where's Charlie?
Under bed. Hanging out. The next night. They go to bed. Everybody gets settled. Charlie starts licking her hand. Drip. 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 She gets up. She's like, that's it. She opens the door. And on the mirror, in blood, it says, humans can lick hands too. And Charlie is dead in the bathtub. Dripping.
What the fuck story? What kind of story is that? That's fucking disgusting. Ew.
This is the shit people told at sleepovers. I don't know what to tell you.
No. tell me that you're sorry. You'll never tell me anything that fucked up ever again. That's sick.
I'm sorry.
I hate
But I'm
it.
not.
I hate it so much.
You never heard that story?
I think I've heard a different variation on it.
Okay. I'm like, I feel like everybody has the licking hand story, right? Like, ooh.
See, that's what I thought about the hook.
Yeah, I've never heard the hook story. I thought you were thinking like Candyman, because I'm pretty sure Candyman has a hook.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't remember the Candyman story.
Blick.
I know it's kind of like Bloody Mary, where if you say it in the mirror, he'll show up.
Oh yeah, nope. We don't play that game either. But
I don't fuck with that. I don't fuck with ghosts. Ooh, bark.
She's upset.
Yeah, she's like, don't talk about Bloody Mary.
Don't
Or
talk about Bloody Mary.
Candyman. Anyway, those are my spooky tales. Those are my campfire session for you.
Those were good ones. Those were really good ones. Gross.
Are we good?
Yeah, I don't have any more. I
Great.
don't have any more. That was my only scary story.
I love it. You know what? I think it works. Welcome to not welcome. It's the end. Thank you for joining Myth Stakes and a spooky special. The spooky special. Make sure you check out our Instagram, social media, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, all those things. Make sure you are following us. If you don't follow us, please do. Come say hi. Slide into our DMs. It's your invitation. We want to hear from you.
Slide in. Or you can send us an email at morethanmythspodcast@gmail.com, and we can correspond that way.
We'll be happy to hear from you.
We'd love a correspondence.
Yeah. Be our pen
Wherever
pal.
wherever you podcast, we also podcast. So if you have a couple of minutes and you can leave a review or follow us, that just gives the little pod a little bump.
As always, remember to tell your friends, tell your family, and tell your Halloween peeps.
Ooh, tell your Halloween peeps. Until next time, stay curious.